Hello everybody, my name is Maher Mohammed, and you may have heard about my escapades lying about being sponsored in 2023 when the first Mario movie released. Well, 3 years, 2,000 subscribers, and a redesign later, they finally recognized me. So I got to see the Super Mario Galaxy movie a whole week before anyone else. This is a monumental moment in my career that I'd never lie about. I grew up with Galaxy after all. I may have never been able to beat the game because of this stupid level, but I did indeed grow up with it. So, without further ado, let's get into this pre-release copy, and you've gotta be kidding me. For those who don't know, Super Mario Bros. The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach, what a mouthful, is a 1986 isekai anime based on the video game Super Mario Bros. Its plot is relatively pretty simple. After seeing the Princess Peach get kidnapped right before his very eyes, Mario can't stop thinking about if what he had seen was real. Fortunately, a dog leads Mario and his brother Luigi into a pipe that transports them into an alternate world where they're told by the Mushroom Hermit about a prophecy that foretold their arrival, and how they're the ones that can and will rescue the princess. The brothers go on a quest and journey across this new land in search of her while fending off various enemies they encounter and making sure to acquire the 3 power-ups needed to defeat the evil King Koopa. This movie is fascinating in the sense that Mario will never have another film like this ever again. Not only is it the first official Mario movie ever made, it was also made back when the franchise had one video game to pull from, which makes this movie an incredible snapshot for its time. Nowadays, the Illumination Mario films have over 40 years of games, spin-offs, shows, and more to utilize. So seeing a film that only had this in the manual to go off is impressive to say the least. In this aspect, the fact that this film is so different from the rest of Mario as we know him is not only compelling to me, but is also why I'm making this video to begin with. Cause I want to know exactly what changed, what stayed the same, and more interestingly of all, what was changed that later found itself integrated into the canon itself. This is way more fun than a review, right? So, without further ado, let's take a look at this silly little Japanese film that never escaped Japan and compare and contrast it. Before we dive into the deep end, let's dip our toes and figure out what remained the same. If you were a new viewer who had any history with the Mario brand before this point, what would you expect to see from a Mario movie? Well, it wouldn't be that for one. First things first, the plot is basically one-to-one with the video game. Princess Peach is kidnapped, go rescue her. The world is also relatively faithful to the game. We see Goombas, or as they're known in Japan, Kiribos, Koopa Troopas, Nokonokos, Paratroopas, Pada Padas, Toads, Canopios, and Bowser, otherwise known as King Koopa, as that was his name in Japan and partially America too? Despite Bowser being a North American creation, he was also known as King Koopa in the States for a good long while until Super Mario 64. That game also helped align Peach with her name, as in the States, it was changed to Princess Toadstool, and would be how us Yankees viewed her until 64 opened with her signing that letter with the nickname of Peach. Speaking of the princess, while it may sound like it deserves to be in a later category, Peach's hair color is actually consistent. While Nintendo had always specified that she was blonde, because of graphical limitations with the Famicom and NES, they settled on making her a redhead, which would be mistakenly adopted by the West, which is why she's depicted as such in various merchandise in the D cartoons. The power-ups are also somewhat consistent here. They're consistent in the sense that they exist, and we also see remnants of how they function during montages, though they also exhibit their own fair share of differences, which kind of sums up a lot of this movie in a way. Similar on paper, different in execution. One example would be the Toads. I'll elaborate on the differences later, but it's worth mentioning that their backstory present in the video game manual is featured here. This was something that was immediately dropped after the first game and was never referenced again, but the fact that Bowser had turned the citizens of the Mushroom Kingdom into the very blocks we see in the game. Yes, you are killing toads. Why aren't you stopping? We also get to explore various aspects of the kingdom like the game. While we do mainly stay above land for most of the film, there is a part where Mario and Luigi go into a cave which is reminiscent of the underground sections in the video game. At some point after Luigi drops the star power off a cliff, Mario delves into the water to retrieve it, which does mirror the underwater levels in the video game. Hell, at the castle there's even a section that mimics the 2D perspective the game employs. There's even a part where Mario has to make a choice, which reminds me a lot of the final video game, where various castle levels will loop itself if you take the wrong path. Finally, before we move on, I wanted to spotlight Mario's characterization. While I will get into the characterization in the next section, I do think this version of Mario is fairly consistent with the Mario we know today. You could even argue this deserves to be in the third section considering aspects like this wouldn't emerge until later entries, considering this is all we knew about Mario's personality beforehand. Mario is a fundamentally good person and a hero. While he does initially seek out to rescue the princess because he's smitten over her, When he learns about her fiancé, he does ultimately accept it. Your happiness is my happiness. And this is probably the most consistent aspect about Mario that you would see in any form of media. He won't harbor grudges. He may be jealous or even envious, but he'll ultimately respect your wishes and wish you good luck on your future endeavors. This is probably Mario's best quality, and it's on full display at the end of the film. Now here's the real meat and potatoes. You can kind of see how in the first section I had to double dip a few times to give you the full context because, while the movie itself appears faithful and consistent, there's also many changes made in the finer details. Which I'm not faulting considering, bro, this is all they had. First things first, going back to the toads, while it is true that in the video game they were turned into blocks, being turned into coins or other magical objects wasn't something mentioned in the game's manual. Likewise, another change here compared to future entries is the gender of the toads. While they might have been ahead of the curve compared to, let's say the Deke Super Mario Bros. 3 cartoon in terms of having the toads all look the same instead of them having different designs and personalities, the anime did opt to make all the toads women instead of men. This change doesn't really have a major effect in the grand scheme, though it does allow the writers to make the toads fawn over the Mario Bros. Because of course they did, they were going to do that anyway. What does that mean? There's also the Mushroom Retainer, aka the Princess's Maid. She is the one who hands Mario the Super Mushroom and thanks him for saving them. These higher guardians aren't in the main canon, or if they are, or there's any similar versions, they tend to remain at a consistent height level with the other toads. Though speaking of higher guardians, the Mushroom Hermit is this old wise figure who prophesizes Mario and Luigi's quest. He only appears twice and then never appears in any piece of media ever again. He's a very interesting character that I'd love to know more of, to be honest. His ability to disappear makes me wonder if he could have appeared to help guide Mario and Luigi at any point during the film. I feel like if this was made in the States, they probably would have had him check up on the characters. Think Sage in the third SpongeBob movie. Well. Something I also want to note is how when he disappears, he seemingly leaves behind decomposing mushrooms, which I don't know if this is supposed to be a him when he's not in his human form or whatnot. It's very interesting though, since we're on a roll analyzing Mario characters, Mario and Luigi. While I gave my flowers to Mario's characterization, the same can't be said for Luigi. To be honest, Luigi in general is just a different character compared to the one that we know and love, so let's just talk about him exclusively for a bit. For a bit of context, at the time, Luigi was nothing more than a palette swap Mario. He shared little to no personality and only existed to be player 2. As the games went on, they would flesh Luigi out, and he would eventually come into his own as Mario's younger, taller brother, who's a sensitive fellow. A scaredy cat, who will fight you on doing something dangerous, but will prevail and be brave if he needs to. The Luigi in this movie is characterized by one goal: money. He is on a never-ending quest to enrich himself throughout the film. I guess as a way to explain the coins from the video game, they assign a Luigi the role of trying to pick up every coin he sees, like this is New Super Mario Bros. 2. Saying that, however, I can't really criticize this, as I characterize Luigi in the exact same way whenever I play Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. I don't care how long it takes or how low they score me, I will spend 5 minutes in each room checking every drawer, second off every vine, using the gay light on every nook and cranny just to get a few extra dollars. I do not care that you don't get a luxurious mansion at the end of the game like the first one does. I am letting my greed consume me and will not stop until I get the biggest money bag I can get on that main menu. Anyway, Luigi is also characterized to be a bit of a hothead, someone who acts impulsively and will lose his temper a bit more than Mario. This isn't pushed to a comical length or anything, it's just something that sticks out considering the Luigi we know and all. There's also the elephant in the room. No, not that one. Besides Fall Guys, you got bigger issues to worry about. No, I'm talking about Luigi's color palette. 3 years ago, I wrote a comment on the Nostalgia Critics review about this very movie saying, and I quote, "The reason why Luigi wears blue is not an error. Luigi was originally designed with blue overalls. The only reason why he was green in the games was due to the color palette being limited because of 8-bit. People liked it though, so Nintendo made green his main color." Now, to be frank, I don't know what 14 or 15-year-old Maher was smoking. He must have been hooked up on whatever he inhaled that made him wish death on an 8-year-old girl, cause I don't know where I got this from. The most I can gather from looking into this is Luigi's palette wasn't remotely consistent at the time, allowing leeway for anyone to come up with their own palette for him. Saying that, however, even from the very beginning, Luigi is displayed with some form of green as his main color, dating back to the bloody gaming watch. No, not that one. There we go. So the idea that he was always supposed to have this blue color palette is frankly poppycock. At most, if you want to argue in favor of this, you could mention how being blue in his palette would have blended in with the background sky and water, which would have made it very hard to see him in game. Think the reason for turning Timmy's hat from blue to pink in the Fairly Odd Parents. Please do not bring up the pen thing. I know that's another reason, but this was also a reason for it. Leave me alone. Until I could find a better source that supports this, I have no reason to suspect that Nintendo's vision for Luigi at the time was blue, unless I could somehow get a hold of Miyamoto. Saying that, however, he did look nice in those colors. He also looks better with the blue and yellow palette than the one seen in the posters, which depicts him in red. Moving on from that... oh yeah, you. For anyone who hasn't seen the film, you've probably been confused why this weird blue dog has been following Mario and Luigi. Well, he's Kibidongo. Like I said during my brief plot summary, he's the one who leads Mario and Luigi to the Mushroom Kingdom, and we later find out that it was a prince named Harry Oji, who was turned into a dog by Koopa. Haru is the prince of a neighboring flower kingdom, and Peach's true love. Something about their necklaces and how when Peach finds someone with an identical gem, he'll sweep her off her feet. I was kind of tapped out by this point in the film. This video that redubs the movie like I got a 4Kids translation turns him into Peach's brother, and that's probably the funniest thing about this dub, and that's why I firmly believe you should check that out if you want to watch this film. Anyway, if I had to mention anything about this weird plot point, it's that it really is the only time the Mario universe has elaborated on Peach's role in the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario games have sort of treated Princess Peach as the queen of the Mushroom Kingdom, never showing parents or a king or an engagement or whatnot. In the Illumination Mario film, they even go as far as to say that she never met her parents and was adopted by the Toads, and when she became old enough, they made her a princess, which doesn't make sense. That's not what a princess is, but it doesn't matter. While the video game did name drop a Mushroom King in the manual, this was never referenced again, not even in this film. How useless do you have to be where the film that has barely anything to work off ignores you? Oh yeah, I said I was gonna get back to the power-ups, wasn't I? Despite showing brief moments of the power-ups doing what they're doing in the game, these act completely differently. As Mario needs to consume all three of them in order to utilize their full powers, and even then, it just seems to make him stronger. We don't get to see Mario grow or use fire, or even have a cool effect when he's affected by the star. By all accounts, these are small MacGuffins that are needed to give the movie structure. Some other non-specific changes include Cheep Cheeps being bigger before exploding into tinier Cheep Cheeps, Mario and Luigi working at a grocery store instead of being plumbers. Likewise, they're not portrayed as New Yorkers from Brooklyn, or even as Italians. Mario and Luigi hit blocks with their heads instead of their fist. The Fire Flower hurts the Buzzy Beetles, while in the game their shell protects them under fire attacks. Lakitu needs to activate his Spinies instead of them just naturally awakening. The pipes are silver instead of green. Oh wait, that's technically accurate during the castle levels, but those aren't in castle levels. Can you tell I'm running out of things to say? Before we begin, I should give a disclaimer that obviously I'm not saying that future Mario projects were directly inspired by this niche 80s film that never left Japan. Nor am I serious if I say something like, "This movie predicted this?" I feel the need to give a disclaimer seeing how terrible Simpsons predictions have become. Anyway, this is all for fun, and because it is fascinating how many aspects of this film would go on to make their way into future Mario titles. To kick things off, the very premise that Mario and Luigi aren't native to the Mushroom Kingdom was introduced here, and basically every piece of Mario lore ever acknowledges this in some form. Bowser's infatuation with Peach and yearning to marry her wouldn't be explored properly until Paper Mario 64. Meanwhile, Mario's romantic involvement with Peach wouldn't be apparent until Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. 4. Speaking of Peach, she's seen in a much more combative role in the film. While she is kidnapped for a majority of it, she isn't completely helpless. We see her try to defend herself numerous times, and even manages to trick Bowser once before he thwarts her. The idea of Peach being more than a simple damsel in distress carries into future Mario works. You may think her being characterized as a badass in the Illumination films is out of character, but truth be told, Nintendo's been characterizing her in a similar way in other forms of media for years. The first thing that comes to my mind are the Super Mario Adventure comics, which even have her rescue Mario at some point. Not to mention, as early as Super Mario USA, Super Mario Bros. 2, we were playing as Peach instead of being kidnapped. And while the games do tend to merely show Peach as nothing more than helpless, When she does get to be playable, we do get to see her strengths. So it is nice how we get to see this so early in Mario's life. Mario and Luigi pilot an airship that looks a lot like the airship seen in Super Mario Bros. 3, the only caveat being this is Mario's rather than Koopa's. Continuing with Mario 3, having the monarchs of the other lands in the Mushroom Kingdom transformed using magic is seen in the film with Kibadongo. Mario hijacks Lakitu's cloud and is able to pilot it, something that would be implemented in Mario World and subsequently every future Mario game. Mario's sombrero fit during this gag looks a bit like what Mario wears in a Game Boy game called Quicks, as well as a costume you can buy in Odyssey. Koopa Troopas being bipedal wouldn't be introduced until Super Mario World. At some point, Mario accidentally causes a vine to grow, which allows him to climb it, something introduced in World. The Toad's caps kind of look like the color palette for Toadette, which was the first proper girl Toad character in Mario, not introduced until Double Dash. Please do not mention Super Mario RPG, do not mention it. I know there's also other Toads in that one. Please do not mention it, do not mention it, please, 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 please! This is the first piece of media to depict Luigi as physically taller than his brother, which wouldn't be adapted until Super Mario USA, aka our version of Super Mario Bros. 2. Having coins pop out of holes after taking something out that was clogging it is similar to what you can do in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon! Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what we're winning for! That's what it's all about! Woo! You're watching the #1 Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon Defender. I'm not calling it 2. Kibadongo kinda looks like a Wiggler, or at the very least something that Yoshi would eat. Bowser taking control of Peach's castle and transforming it kinda reminds me of what he would do in New Super Mario Bros. U. During the underwater scene, a clam traps the star power-up, and Mario needs to find a way to open its mouth. Clampies wouldn't appear in the Mario series until Super Mario Galaxy. The idea of Mario transporting into the Mushroom Kingdom through a pipe would be used in both the DiC cartoons as well as the Illumination film. And finally, how could I not? Mario swinging Bowser's tail to defeat him is a core gameplay mechanic in Super Mario 64, and is arguably the game's most iconic aspect. I'm sorry this is more of a list than anything unlike the other two sections, though I can still talk for a bit because while I may not have to say about these things specifically, in general, it is quite amusing how much would foreshadow later entries in the Mario series. Some may say that these were just obvious inclusions that anyone would have thought up for, but I still find it interesting, especially considering the minor alterations we see. Mario may have grabbed Bowser's tail, but could you ever imagine our Mario punching Bowser directly in the gut? Oh wait. Even if these were obvious conclusions, you can still see the different thought processes going on for each of these predictions. Another would be the pipe thing. Here, the pipes were just laying around and even disappeared after they went inside them, while in something like the DiC cartoons, Mario and Luigi got sucked down from a shower pipe, and in the Illumination film, they got sucked from a pipe inside a sewer system. Or what about how different Koopas look when they're standing compared to how they look now? These type of things are really fascinating to me, and I just love talking about them. Not even to reach a definitive conclusion, but rather throw these ideas out there and see what you, the viewer, think of it. It's fun. We have fun here. Overall, despite the odds being stacked against it, the great mission to rescue Princess Peach is quite the visionary in a lot of ways. Not only could it be fairly consistent to the Mario world despite only having 5% of the source material, but even when it deviated, it offered some amount of value to the Mario world. Enough so that future works would mirror what the film did. And even the stuff that we never see again, it's still so fascinating to look at. It makes me sad that this thing never got a proper DVD or Blu-ray release. It's also sad how this is rarely, if ever, acknowledged by Nintendo. I don't know if there's a legal thing. This movie was made by like 2 companies, one of which doesn't exist anymore, the other operates only in Japan, but I don't think the film deserves to be as obscure as it is. It wasn't bad enough like the 1993 live-action flick to be neglected, but it also wasn't good enough to make a splash or spawn any more pictures. It simply exists and was a thing that happened once, which I think is a disservice. While I wouldn't be eager to watch it again, I still see its value, and at the very least, if it had to be obscure, I'm glad there's seemingly no copyright protections in place, which enables anyone to watch it right now on YouTube. I mentioned the fan dub as a joke earlier, but there really are a lot of English dubs out there that are really good, and I would recommend it if you don't want to read for an hour. Shout out to the dub the Nostalgia Critic used when he questions this line that Mario's voice actor said.
Hey, wait a minute. I thought I was Italian.
Near the time period from It Follows, there are no clear answers.
When it was never in the original Japanese version, it was just a flub that the guy who dubbed the film kept in as a joke. Anyway, speaking of the fans, they're also the reason why I could even make this video. Having passionate people spend years restoring and re-restoring already restored copies of this obscure film to be presented in the best quality possible brings a tear to my eye. This is the type of love that should be encouraged, and I hope to know that I appreciate every single one of them who came together to help restore, translate, retranslate, caption, add context in the captions, color correct, and more to make this film that only got a VHS and Betamax release look as amazing as it can possibly be. It truly is a sight to behold. Guess I was duped again. Fortunately though, the all-powerful gods at Nintendo watched this before it even came out, and they liked my analysis so much, they offered me a chance to see a sneak peek at the behind the scenes of the third Mario movie. This is gonna be such a cool event. I just need to enter through my closet, find a seat so I can see the magic that is making an animated movie, and come on, man! You better!